Well, it is that time again, everybody. Hope you are doing well. My name is Bird Dog John, and I am back in action.
In those scenarios, it's good to neuralize the cameras. You guys know that best.
Very straightforward. Plug it in, go to the web UI, link the source, walk away. You know, like super simple. I keep looking over at the chat, and I keep seeing you are full of it. Tasty, spicy meat snacks. Covered in flavor. I mean, you can't go wrong. So what's going on? We've got a handful of folks here in the chat, and I really appreciate that. What's up, mate? Hey, Warren, how are you? Appreciate it. Hey, Robbie, how's it going, man? You're just talking about you. What's going on, Tom? Ahoy. How is it going? What's going on, Go Web? Good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with us again today. Appreciate that. I feel like I'm in this video more than anyone but John. It's true, NetApp. You are, I'm going to cut this up and put this in the next intro.
Everything's coming up, Millhouse.
What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you're doing well. Welcome back to the Bird Dog Live Support Show, brought to you by no sponsors. Nobody sponsors this show. Brought to you not by Ember Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. It's good stuff. Somebody made coffee this morning, either Brayton or Frink, and I really appreciate that. It's good stuff, but hopefully you're doing well. The big news on today's show is that I changed out the P200 for P4K. So we had one here for Bird Dog support reasons, and so today we are functioning on a P4K, and I don't know, what do you think? I think it looks pretty good. lot of detail in that shot. So it's a nice. Now it's set. It's not set to 4K resolution. It's set to a 1080 resolution, but using a 4K sensor. And so I think that's pretty good. Looks pretty nice, and I like it. I'm also not wearing the traditional black hoodie today. So for those of you who are regular attendees, you'll notice wardrobe change over here at in the support show. So good times. I've turned on the playlist, so we're going to cycle through. The first shot is the P4K. The second shot is the 240, which is up in the crow's nest. And then I have a third shot here, which is a PF120. So you'll be cycling through those during the show, kind of give you an idea of what it looks like, what each of the cameras look like through the fleet. And these are some of the more newer ones. And so I still have the 200. It's just not plugged in. It's just right over there. And then I have a fourth shot. Okay, so that's the 240. So then I have a fourth shot that is another PF120, which is not really in the system, but I'm using it for the Silicone 2 update and a bunch of stuff like that. So good times, good times. Sorry for the late start, folks. I didn't even schedule this show, so it didn't show up on the, inside the YouTube algorithms to show that it was coming up. I logged in here with about 4 minutes to go and realized I hadn't done any of that, so fired it up and got it going, but there was really no pre-show that was in the works, so my apologies for that. A little bit behind. Had a pretty big customer meeting this morning, and so we were working through some stuff for them and trying to figure out some solutions. So, hey, there's that PF120 and all the blue. Everyone complains because I wear all black on the black background. But then the other color that I wear is blue. So now it's blue. A whole bunch of the same. Good times. Hey, what's going on, Matthew? Let's go Michigan. Yeah, Michigan is under some ice and snow. I guess I could bring in a secondary. Where did my second monitor go? This Samsung setup is really annoying. So let's see if I can get... Okay, there's my second monitor. It's just off. All right, so now I'll turn on my multi-viewer, turn on my monitor. You can really tell I'm not with it here today. Let me make sure that this stuff is working. Over in cameras. Okay, so it's not. So I need to restart screen capture. I had some exposure today, which we could talk a little bit about today with NDI Bridge, mostly because it wasn't working correctly. And it was and it wasn't. I don't know what NDI Bridge does in terms of generating a signal, but we should dive into that a little bit. Maybe I can find somebody who has some experience with that, because today was really my first real dive into that. It was a customer site who was using Bridge to bring all these NDI sources onto the same subnet, VLAN really, and then trying to show them on minis and plays, and mostly plays. He's got a whole fleet of them, and he couldn't get to show at all. So I monkeyed around with it. I haven't had much luck with NDI Bridge, but to full disclosure, I really don't have any need for it. So I haven't spent any time trying to figure that out. So yeah, it's been a busy morning here. So what's going on, Matthew? MX Rules, what's going on? Welcome back, and hi from Aberdeen. Hey, what's going on, Ian? Ian, or however you'd like to say it. What's happening? Jack has a question over on LinkedIn right out of the gates. Hey, a quick question on your wintry morning. Is there a way to get Kelvin control temperature control on a P4K? We use our P4Ks alongside more traditional broadcast cameras like the Blackmagic Ursa broadcast and the Sony FX9. Matching the P4Ks to 3200 Kelvin, for example, is tough doing it by eye with the RB sliders. Equally, is there a lookup chart for how the RB sliders match Kelvin color temperature? Okay, interesting thing about Kelvin. It depends on who you talk to about this, but it's let me think about how to word this. It is either loved or hated in the broadcast world. And on certain lenses, Panasonic's, for example, there are a few Canon lenses out there that do what we do, but basically it is either integrated into the lens at the lens level or it's not at all. And Sony doesn't actually have Kelvin information ingrained at the lens level. Now, some of their cheaper lenses do, which gives us the option to kind of put pseudo Kelvin on top of things. But when you really talk about Kelvin adjustment and being as precise as what it is that you're outlining here, the P4K camera, as I understand it, and let me jump over to that web UI because I just had it open. Oh, I closed it. Of course I did. So this is a P4K. This main camera is now P4K. So if I go over to that web UI, which I will throw over onto my secondary monitor so you guys can see that. So let's stop the playlist real quick. Here we go. So this is P4K, and inside we've got to log into it first of all. But inside the P4K, it will show its actual, color options. We got to go to cam control for that. Exposure and white balance. Okay, so there are a few options here when it comes to control, but one of them is not Kelvin. So the PF 120, for example, has Kelvin, but that lens is not the lens that's inside of that half-inch Sony CMOS, okay? And at the lens level, as I understand it, Sony does not even give you the ability to adjust based on Kelvin temperature. Instead, they give you this like incredibly granular matrix level control, which is where this comes from. This option is directly on the OSD of this camera lens and the base camera itself, all of those coloration options. But when it comes to like true Kelvin and color temperature and that sort of thing, that is, the actual Kelvin adjustment is not available. Now, it depends on who you ask, like I said before. Depends on who you ask, because some people say Kelvin is a professional measurement tool of white balance, and some people say Kelvin is not a professional white balance tool. That Kelvin is a trick in terms of actually balancing the camera. So you set all the cameras to the same color temperature, and then they all magically match. Well, some people don't believe that. And in particular, Sony lens developers don't believe that. Which I'm not a Sony lens developer. I think Kelvin has its place. However, it is a way of measuring light and temperature. But if you're talking about people who are colorists, okay, people who get paid to measure and to actually set the temperature on a lens, those folks are going to want the color matrix, whereas people who are, I think, doing what you're doing people who are doing what you're doing in this instance, Jack, are just looking to quickly balance them and get on with it, but you probably don't have a video colorist on staff, and so you're probably more likely an everything man, like many of us, and you're just trying to get them set up really as close as you can, and then you'll do some post, coloration in the end. So when you're talking about a broadcast lens, the colorists are going to want the matrix. When you're talking about a guy who's got 3 different cameras from 3 different manufacturers, you're trying to balance them closely, that's usually the guy that wants the Kelvin stuff. And I totally get why. It's just, for a lot of folks, it's potato. So there isn't really like a way to even superimpose. Actually, correction. There is a way for our engineers to put Kelvin control on this screen, but it wouldn't be true Kelvin control. It wouldn't be doing that. It would be manipulating the matrix sliders and the R and the B sliders, the blue and the red. So it would be pseudo Kelvin control because that data isn't actually available at the base level, and so it would be a fake Kelvin control. Now, whether or not that's good enough for you, I don't know. Maybe that's something we should look at in terms of developing. But the big joke was, Sony lenses don't do Kelvin control. And then if you've watched the PF 120 announcement video with Eamon, he says, and yes, Toby, there's Kelvin control. That's because the lens that's in this actually gives us that data. It's not a fake. So anyways, so the long answer is no. because these are the options that people like colorists are going to want in a broadcast situation. Whereas if you're doing like a church stream or you're doing a lecture hall or a school or whatever, and you just want to set the Kelvin ratings, which we totally understand why you would want that quick setting. The recommendation there is to do one push and then just adjust them slightly. For the record, with all of the bird dog cameras that are in my studio, so I've got 3 of them here, right? With all of the cameras that are in the studio, I have white balanced all of them, and I think that they're all, actually I white balanced all of them just the other day, and I think they are pretty close to what is going on here. So the P240 is the one that's taking in a whole lot more lumens than the rest of them, and so my shirt is a little brighter blue than the rest of these, so these are a little darker, which is probably closer to the actual color of my shirt, but that one just needs a slight white balance. The exposure is a little too high on that one. So, but I've balanced all these, and it maybe took me 15 minutes. So that's about what I would expect to balance a camera. I did 3 of them in 15 minutes, so that's about what I would expect. But to each his own, I guess. What's going on, Amtash? Welcome back. Always good to see you. Good morning from Edmonton, says Angus. Hey, what's going on? I've been bitten hard by NDI Bridge. An early NDI 5 version would quit without any error message if vMix was running. Oh, interesting. Would vMix quit or would just NDI Bridge quit? It relies on hardware 264, 265 encoding, and rather than bumping over the software encoding when it runs out of NVENC, it tries to push full bitrate NDI over the public internet. Whoa. Yeah, yikes. I'm having decode issues with Bridge. I just haven't played with it enough to know what the deal is. But hey, what's going on, my friend from Stockholm? How are you? Welcome back. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Kelvin is a good starting point, but there's also offset from the black body. Yeah. Oh, this is a great point, Angus. So with the P4K, the black level stuff is going to play into effect as to how the coloration is going to look, right? And so you got to get the black level right before, and depends on what you want too. So if you're going for like a cinema look type of thing where you're trying to do like raw and then you're going to do color editing later, so this is for post-production type video, that's one thing. If you're doing live stream where you want your black balances to probably be a little bit heavier than they normally would in a, if it's a live stream situation, then you got to start there and then adjust your color balances accordingly. So there is a third element. Bird Dog John, guess what? This could be anything, Jeremy. Did you land a sponsor for your side business with Ember? I would love to know. I have no idea what it could possibly be, Jeremy. Welcome to the show, man. Hey, Dark Acid, what's up? I would like to learn it, but I don't believe that there is an objective way to use the matrix. Well, it's highly subjective, first of all. There's no do this, do this, do this, and then your colors will be correct. It's like, well, what's your shot, right? Like, look at the variety that this shot is. It's pretty unique where I have a black background, black set, pretty bright lighting, good studio lighting, and then, not a whole lot in this shot other than me, and a beautiful EV-RE20 microphone. So yeah, it depends on, but when it comes to learning matrix, there are certain gains are going to change certain things, certain elements in your shot, right? And so what is your shot, first of all? And then we can talk about more, what does everything do? I can certainly walk you through the web UI of the matrix to kind of show you, and each lens is going to behave differently than the next. So the P4K is a different matrix than the P200, right? That's the truth. The Sony cameras I own with the same sensor or better have Kelvin and color control. Boom. Which cameras do you own? Which Sonys? PTZs or this half-inch Sony? Love to know. I match my 200 with the RB controls. My A2 and A4 take wildly different numbers to get similar outputs. I'd love to have a fake Kelvin option to get them close enough. There you go. All right. Well, I'll see what the engineers can say. I can't get one push to work since 5.5. Really? That's interesting. I should, oh, cool. I'll just force my other vendors to buy P4Ks. Hey, Jeremy. Oh, you're here. Guess what? Oh, that's great. That's great news. Hey, Jack. So obviously not, but yeah, I mean, I've balanced this to a Canon DSLR before. That didn't take too long. So I set the DSLR to what I thought it should look like, and then I matched it to a bird dog camera. That's possible. Just Bridge. vMix was rock solid. Okay, cool. Funny thing is, vMix and Bridge weren't even interacting. It's the last selling day of the month. It's like a police officer. You got to get your quota in at the end of the month. Good luck, man. Pleasure to have you on. I did win a new Ember mug from a drawing on LinkedIn. There you go. See, things are looking up already. Have you ever heard of Ruckus switches? I have. That's the brand that my IT department is upgrading the school network to, and the one they want me to use instead of the 4250s. Oh, really? Well, so Ruckus makes their own brand. I know they have an OEM. It's not just straight Ruckus. So I forget, who is it, Aruba, or I forget who the brand is. I've used Ruckus switches. They're pretty good. I should say I've seen them used. They look to be pretty reliable, but of course they're not going to prioritize your AV over IP stuff, so that's a shame. But yeah, I know Ruckus. They like to prioritize, obviously, all their own stuff, right? So they have a whole wireless infrastructure and everything that they use. But it would be better if you could prioritize the AV stuff. Can you not just use the 4250 for NDI and then just bridge it later on? That would be the ideal. Just say it's fine. Go ahead and use the Ruckus stuff, but just let me have one 4250 in each rack space, and we'll just trunk those over together. Is Michigan cold this week? It is. Michigan is cold this week. The current temperature is 34 degrees, going up to a whopping 42. But let's see here. Auburn Hills. This is taking an excruciating time to reload. Okay, so 43. Ooh, 49 tomorrow? Well, never mind. It's going to be almost 50 degrees. That's warm for this Canadian. So 49, 40, 35. On Friday, we're going to get apparently a bit of a snowstorm. And so I got to fly out on Saturday, so hopefully not too much of a snowstorm. Then Saturday, 40, 41. So around the 40s this week. I have to run out to a meeting in a few minutes, but I should be back in just over half an hour. I got a 4250 trick to share. Ooh, suspenseful. Angus with the dangling the carrot here on a chilly Tuesday morning. Bridge is like a relay, and you never use bridge with HX signals. So, camcorders. I see. HX70 and NX. Okay. The camcorder line is a little bit different, but I hear you. Be good to know, though. I'd be interested to see more. And you needs to know how many NVENC sessions your GC can run. Interesting. I have a couple of graphics cards here that I could actually give this a good test with. So it might be something that I do. Yeah, so we should you know what I'll do? I'm going to find a tab. Let's take a look here. So NDI bridge from New Tech, and there's like a video. Bridge explained. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I want to share this tab. Share share the tab audio, please. And hopefully you can hear this when we go.
NDI Bridge securely shares NDI sources between remote sites, connecting NDI networks around the world, making it easy to set up and manage NDI workflows regardless of location. NDI Bridge sends video and audio signals across local and wide area networks. Each signal includes alpha channel, PTZ controls, tally, metadata, KVM, and more. It can also transcode signals between NDI and NDI-HX to maximize bandwidth and flexibility. And when used in conjunction with NDI Access Manager, NDI Bridge can share specific sources across wide area networks. You can download it for free as part of the NDI Tools Pack, available at ndi.tv. NDI Bridge features 3 modes of operation: host, join, and local. The host mode and join mode work in conjunction to join remote sites. On the first network, we will call it Network A. NDI Bridge is run on one system in host mode. It looks at the network and references the NDI signals available. Then, on the second network, we will call it Network B. NDI Bridge is run on one system in join mode. It also looks at the NDI signals on its network and references those signals. The host system on Network A makes itself available for connections, and the join system connects to the host. Once a connection is created between the 2 bridge systems, signals from Network B are available to Network A. And because NDI is bidirectional, all of the signals from Network A become available to Network B. NDI Bridge is aware that not all signals can be sent at all times, so it only sends the needed signals when they are being actively requested by a remote destination. Additionally, if another network joins the host, all 3 sites are now sharing their signals between each other. Here's how it works. We will start with the system on Network A. You can launch NDI Bridge from the NDI Launcher or your Applications menu. Start by clicking the Host mode. In the first field, you can enter the names of the Access Manager groups you wish to share, or leave it blank to share all public NDI signals. In the second field, you can enter the name of your bridge system. The public IP address will be entered automatically for your specific network. Next, you need to enter the port on your network. You must port forward through your router to allow for external connections. Lastly, you can enter a private encryption key, or the system will generate one automatically. You can quickly copy these settings to the clipboard for sharing with your remote operators. The encoder settings are where you can define how the signals will be shared across the wide area network. You can reduce bandwidth needs by transcoding all signals to NDI-HX using HEVC or H.264 encoding with compression settings you can adjust for your needs and capacity. Signals can also be encoded as high bandwidth NDI for use in workflows that do not have NDI-HX compatibility. Or you can choose to not transcode these signals and they will pass through in their native format. Lastly, click the Start button to start the NDI Bridge host. Now that the host is up and running, the next step is to join that host from another system. After starting NDI Bridge, click the Join tab. In the first field, you can enter the names of the Access Manager groups you wish to share, or leave it blank to share all public NDI signals. In the second field, enter your bridge name. In the next 3 fields, enter the server IP address, port, and encryption key from the NDI Bridge host system. Encoder settings are configured here as necessary for the bandwidth available. Lastly, click Join. Once the two networks are connected, you will be able to monitor the number of connections and bandwidth used at the bottom of the window. Now that the bridge is active, NDI signals from both networks can be monitored and used as desired. And here is an example. On the host system on network A, open NDI Studio Monitor. Select the bridge system in your device list. Any of the devices shared by the remote network B and their connected NDI signals can be monitored. These signals are now available to all NDI-enabled devices on network A. And because this is bidirectional, NDI-enabled devices on network B now have access to the NDI signals on network A, with all of the NDI features like alpha channel, PTZ control, tally, and KVM. The last mode is local mode. NDI Bridge in local mode runs on a single computer. It works efficiently to find NDI sources on the local network and creates a proxy for each source. It then uses that local computer as a new distribution point for new NDI signals. For example, if an NDI encoder is connected to a camera and many systems wish to view it, NDI Bridge can be used to move the bandwidth needs from the encoder, which has limited resources, to the bridge system, which can be configured with higher capacity components like a 10 gigabit network interface. Additionally, the transcoding capabilities of NDI Bridge mean that a single system can take a high bandwidth NDI signal, convert it to NDI HX, then redistribute the NDI HX signal across the network, reducing the bandwidth needed to send that signal to other NDI
what type
receivers,
of HX is it?
including local devices using Wi-Fi
1, 2, or 3.
remote devices over a VPN. Lastly, NDI Bridge can also be used to transcode NDI HX signals into high bandwidth NDI signals to connect to NDI devices that may not have NDI HX compatibility.
I hate that they don't specify. It drives me crazy.
To set up Bridge in local mode, simply select the Local tab. Enter any access manager groups. And lastly, enter the bridge name. Adjust the encoder settings as desired and click Start. Now, any system on the network has access to the bridge signals through the bridge system, moving bandwidth and transcoding requirements to systems configured with greater resources. NDI Bridge allows users to securely share NDI sources between local or remote sites anywhere in the world, making it easy to set up and manage. This gives media production teams the tools to reduce complexity and costs without sacrificing the quality and flexibility that NDI has to offer. Download NDI Bridge as part of the NDI Tools Pack today at ndi.tv.
All right, there we have it, folks. Curious indeed. We could find out more about Bridge. Let's see what we can do. So, I have a GPU on here. What's its current usage? 9 programs. Does it tell me what it's using, though? No. Okay, so, local bridge name. Bird Dog Support HX. I'm just going to set this up and see if it crashes vMix. 8 megabits. Check compatibility. Okay, cool. And go. All right, so it looks like Bridge. Is Bridge running? How do I know if it's running? Okay, we got to look at a source apparently. Bird Dog Support HX. Auburn Road. Oh, there it is, 7 megs. And it is running. And I can control the camera. Interesting. Whoa, the bitrate is running at 2 megs. Let's open this, I guess, and find out. a little bit more. So fascinating. I am generating all of the signals now. This computer is running this. I'm going to just put Bridge in the startup apps, I think. Copy. Does Bridge, if Bridge fails, does it restart automatically? If, like, so we have a power outage. Yoink. If it fails, does it restart automatically? And because this is a very interesting idea. I'm curious about bringing in these sources as, like, what if I change this source inside vMix to be the to be the, okay, so check this out. How much delay is there? I guess I need to open this up in, whoa, that's dropping frames, but there's not really a whole lot of, not a whole lot of delay in terms of, this is the, that's dead on right now. What do you guys think? Do you guys see, I have changed the P4K to be the HX signal that's coming out of Bridge, and I'm going to look at my CPU usage. It's still pretty high. But I'm not noticing a massive change. I'm going to change all of these and see what my CPU usage ends up being. So now, these are all the HX signals. I'm going to close out. CPU is still like maxed out on this computer. I thought it would lower it because obviously I'm using HX now, right? But whoa. But I'm definitely seeing drop frames. All the signals that are under the NDI group. Local mode to re-encode, use more unicast signals, not have to jump to multicast. It runs HX3. Bridge becomes moot once all cameras and converters get Silicon 2 and SRT. Person I'm meeting with is running late, so I'm here for another few minutes. In my experience, Bridge will automatically start at the computer if you ask it to. But it will randomly change the access code. No restart automatic. Sync looks fine over here. Just now started glitching a bit. Lip sync is off and jumpy. Okay, so let's check out that lip sync now over in YouTube. Yeah, I guess I need to sit off to the side so you guys can actually see me talking. And I don't see a huge difference. But that HX signal. All right. Now you have a lip sync delay. Are you re-encoding HX signals in Bridge? Yes, that is what I'm up to. And then I switched over those sources in vMix. This says that I'm running 23 megabits per second over Bridge. It's kind of cool that you get that readout. But if you're seeing, well, intermittent lip sync for sure. Definite burst of drop frames. So, all right. So now I'm going to, I better not stop this until I switch back. So now I'm going to go over to those cameras and I'm going to switch. The P4K is now back to full NDI. The 240 is back and the 120 is back. Okay, so these are all now full NDI sources. Whoa. My CPU usage just dropped off when I switched them all back. Boy, that's bizarre. All right, and then I'm going to stop bridge. Now I'm at like 50% CPU usage. So then what does the lip sync look like now? Because I'm really curious. The problem is that you're encoding long GOP under another long, and the iframe is not going to be in sync. That is a problem. 264 takes work to decode. Apparently. Seriously. This is, I think, I'm probably not out of sync now because the CPU has a ton of overhead. Yeah. Get your mouth visible. Fair enough. Fair enough, Jeremy. I appreciate it. The lip sync looks like an RE20. Move over so we can see it. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm sorry that it is an RE20. Anyways, also, I only have coffee today. I debated with Mr. Brayton as to whether or not we were going to do snacks on stream and decided to not do it. Looks like it's in sync now. Well, that's fun. It's not bizarre. It's if bridge is just working with CPU, you're forcing the bridge to work with the GPU. Yes, I was forcing it to work with the GPU. All programs on this machine encode or function, if they can, on the GPU, with the exception of vMix. Because evidently, vMix doesn't like my GPU, and I have two of them. So that's also a big no-no. You can't have dueling GPUs, which was annoying because at home, I have two older GeForce WindForce 970s, which are great. They do really well, but they're SLI bridged together. And so I have two of them. And they perform really well. I can run multiple monitors, VR headsets. They get really warm, like they heat up my office really fast. But yeah, they definitely work really well. But one of the things that vMix's limitation is the dueling GPUs. You can't use them, even if they're SLI'd, so it looks like it's a single one. You can't do it. So that's a shame, but it's also kind of annoying. Hey, here's something I found out recently, which you might find interesting, which maybe you already know this, and I'm just discovering this for the first time. Studio Monitor, and I think I can demonstrate this. Studio Monitor, come on now. If you where are we here? This one. Okay, so if Studio Monitor is running like this, okay, this is the full NDI feed, and I can prove it to you. So settings, video, and then low bandwidth is off. So this is the full NDI feed, full value. I have control of everything over here, right? If you make this small enough, watch what happens. It switches to proxy. However, it is not low bandwidth. So I opened this morning right when the show was starting, and I was going to make a quick little adjustment on the camera. I opened Studio Monitor real fast and was going to pull it up. And when you shrink down this screen, it stops pulling the full NDI and switches it over to proxy. And I thought that was strange because proxy is not selected. And it doesn't, like if it was doing this, you would think that the low bandwidth mode would be grayed out or something, right? Or just checked and grayed out. But when you scooch it down, and the only reason I noticed this was because I have the scopes on the proxy. So if we make this full value, okay, that's the full value of the camera, but then we change the video setting to low bandwidth, boom, there is the scope. But when you run this, when you turn that off, right? So scopes are only on preview, and you shrink it down to like this size, it automatically switches to preview without you telling it to. I thought that's weird, because I didn't tell it to do that, and I didn't realize that that's actually what's going on. So that's weird. Also kind of cool, because if you need to check your scope real fast, you can just shrink down Studio Monitor to where it switches to proxy like that, and then check it, and then make it full screen again, or whatever it is that you're doing. So there you go, everybody. The more you know. Okay, of course is the way new tech works. Everything is under a percentage size, and it's going to switch to low. Really? Because that's not how vMix works. And you would think that the little thumbnails that are inside vMix for each of your cameras would be running in proxy, but they're not. They're running full value. That is weird. Is the auto switch to proxy a result of the latest NDI tools? This is NDI 5.5, so maybe. But I agree with Angus. It is kind of neat, is that you can get proxy and full in the same window. You just got to make it small enough. And then you make those scopes large, on the web UI. And yeah, it's all good. So it's new tech's benefit. I don't know if that was a joke, but that's funny. I like to add the keyboard router as a proxy NDI input into vMix. It gives me a quick way to check scopes. Oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, that is a cool idea. I'm going to fix the coloration on this because it's way too bright. So let's do that now. Yoink, and configure sources. And we'll stop the playlist here real quick and jump over to the web UI of the 240. I should really put the 240 in the bottom corner, but anyways, in a perfect world, if I was really thinking about you guys and not myself and the convenience that the show is to me, I would definitely put the 240 in the bottom corner so you could see me adjust these colors. But because I'm not that nice, I'm just going to do this quickly. All right, so I think this is mostly an exposure problem. We are on full Manuel. So let's see what this does. Yeah, that's a whole lot better. It's just overexposed. Yep, I like that, I think. I like that. Let's see if I can preview this. So here is that shot now. And then here is the blue of my shirt. Otherwise, it's a little dark in terms of it doesn't like pop like the P4K does, but I could probably adjust that. Let's do this. Let's turn the gain up there, but then pull back on the iris a bit. Somewhere in between. Maybe that. The blue is not, it's not the same blue. And quite honestly, the blue that's in this shot, the P4K, is probably the blue that shirt is. Like, it's pretty blue. This just looks a little dull. So let's see if we can't pull those blues out without jacking up the background too much. This is color matrix now, guys. There we go. So that's closer to what we're looking at, I think. So, all right. That's how you manipulate color matrix. I know you guys couldn't see me do that, but I think the blues are closer. That's cool. I would really like it. It would be really nice to have the keyboard camera selection track vMix's preview bus. Yes, we've heard that before. I don't know what vMix does in terms of outputting that information so that we could see it, but perhaps. Hey, John, later. Glad I could visit. Jeremy, good luck, man. End of the month. Today's the day. Make it happen. Ding. Manuel. Good times. So yes, we've talked about that in passing, not at any high level of seriousness, about having the keyboard actually, I wonder if vMix outputs anything on API with the preview. Because if that's the case, then it's very possible to integrate it at that level. but it would have to be a different. It would have to be like a different mode, like you'd have to have the option to have it as it is right now, or to switch it into like accepting vMix's API bus or something, preview bus, so that you could see, so that the keyboard would switch based on what's happening in the preview or the main window. Because the same would be true in terms of desirability. The same would be true with having it control the program. I mean, not everybody runs that way, but that request would come if you programmed it to be the preview control. Then it would probably also be required that you change it from preview to program. But yeah. Maybe just a little piece of software in the middle to translate between the two. Yeah, maybe we don't need to overcomplicate it like I am, and we could just do something a little simpler. But, interesting thought. Not to say that we won't do it, but that, we are finding, and this is more of a general statement, we're finding that building these sorts of endpoints is not so much about the feature set that is in each of the cameras, but more so about the level of integration that you can provide with the rest of the ecosystem, like the AV ecosystems, right? We get a lot of questions about like QSys and Crestron and Extron, and full disclosure, support doesn't have any of those systems in their office. Like we don't have any of them, but they do boil down to the API command list and how they are written. Now, I know a lot of integrators who look at our QSys module or look at the Crestron module and they read the code and then they think, okay, that's cute, and then they write their own. I mean, I say that all the time. Guys that do really big installs and coordination and integration and across multiple product lines, those guys are creating their own unique softwares that talk to a variety of APIs and get them to dance together. Okay, that's what an integrator does. Then there's also a smaller handful of people who are downloading our QSys or Crestron plugin and using it. And that is not quite as common as the guys who are writing their own software, because the guys who are writing their own software then know the extent in which they have programmed and checked the API commands for their products, right? So there's a level of certainty there when it comes to being able to deliver on a promise when you write your own software and then you show it to the customer and say, look, I integrated their API into my product line. Densitron is really good with this, by the way. But I integrated the product into my own, and I wrote the code for it, so I know it's going to do these things. When you press that button, it's going to move left or it's going to move right or whatever. So it's really interesting level of integration that people get to. And if you are an integrator out there and you're wondering about how can I provide a high level of confidence when my customers buy this product line, is to have a integrator who writes the code and takes our API commands and puts them in a device, whether that's the keyboard, our own keyboard, or whether that is some sort of touch panel, which a lot of guys are doing. There's a huge level of value there that you can provide if you know how to integrate the API directly. So, excuse me. It's been a short night. I came into the office early for multiple reasons. So that's the sort of conversation. As a manufacturer of products that are basically endpoints, converters, cameras, software, whatever, we are finding out quicker that it's not really about the feature set. The camera needs to do the thing it needs to do, or the converter needs to do the thing it does, but truly at the end of the game, it needs to integrate with systems, and the majority of the functions that are available on that product need to be integratable into the rest of the ecosystem over the API. That's the deal. And yeah, we're finding that out pretty quick. So A lot of these guys that are in this chat, for example, are guys that are doing just that. Can the keyboard accept an API input to switch cameras? I don't think it can accept API inputs, but I wouldn't say that it won't. I won't say that it will never be able to do that. Just a heads up. I don't know. I don't know if you can push a command to change the input on the camera from from a program. That's an interesting question. I haven't seen it done. I don't mind throwing together a little Python script to do it myself. There you go. See, Angus is worth his salt if he can write his own code. Hey, Silas, any tips on getting an RS-232 to work on a keyboard? Oh, why? Why are you using that protocol? I got someone having issues with it using a huddle cam. Huddle cam? I'll have to Google that. And a keyboard. They tried more than one Bird Dog keyboard, and their Lumens keyboard works fine. So the 232 command list is pretty. They've also tried 4.5 firmware. The 232 command list is pretty basic in terms of it hasn't changed in multiple generations, but I do know that the Visca addressing, that's on the camera. The Visca addressing is super important when it comes to not the Visca IP, but the Visca address of the camera is super important when programming that 232. Now, full disclosure, we have that as an option on our keyboard, but I'm not running a 232 network here. Maybe I should. Maybe I should get a whole bunch of 232 security cameras and run them into a keyboard just to say that we do it. But I do know that 232 list doesn't change, and it is a base function of the keyboard. So that's a function that's baked into the Bolin firmware on that keyboard and not necessarily the Bird Dog firmware. So I'm not too sure why it wouldn't be an issue, but I do know that the Visca address on the camera is vital to getting that to work. And knowing the baud rate and knowing the port number and knowing a handful of things. Honestly, it's actually not that complicated. So I'm surprised that they're having issues like that. HuddleCamHD.com. Thank you, Balu. Hey, man, what's going on? HuddleCam HD. Cameras. Huddle Pro. Ooh, auto tracking. USB cameras for meetings that matter. Uh, 12x 12x Huddle View. What protocols do they support? Simply Track. Everyone's doing tracking now. Does it have any IP protocols other than 232? Doesn't look like it, but the Huddle View. Oh, or this one. This is a little PTZ. Why? Why is it doing that? All right. Okay, so there's not much on here that's useful. Oh, there we go. There we go. It just took a little while to load. Auto track features. It's designed for scalability, plugging them in over LAN ports. Unparalleled value. Award-winning support. There you go. They got an award-winning support system, apparently. IP control and RS-232. What is the IP control? Visca IP? And is that an option? I would be curious to know. If it can, that's all I need to make this work. I've already figured out the vMix API. It took about 3 minutes. Nice. Does Central Pro have the ability to assign which cameras the joystick is connected to? No. No. The joystick, you have to connect those cameras to the joystick on the actual keyboard. I used to use 232 to control my first P200. It worked fine, but I've never tried it with another brand of camera. Hey, what's going on, Balu? So, yeah, the 232. Like I said, it's a really basic command. It's been around for a really long time, and it is a base function of the Bolin keyboard. So if you're not going to find a bunch of answers on 232 on the BirdDog website because we don't necessarily talk much about how that's a connection option. But I know the Bolin website would have some documentation. This cup is nice and warm. Would have some options, like in terms of literature. So you might be able to check out the Bolin website and see if they have any specifics about the 232 option. He says the baud rate and the basic settings look good. I'll have him double check the address and the port. Oh, and be super careful about the port on the top of the keyboard. There's a specific one for 232. And then how are you connecting it? Are you using like a Phoenix connector? Is it Ethernet? Because if it's Ethernet, you need to make sure that you make a crossover canable? Oh, dear. Canable is not a word, by the way, everybody. If you're making a crossover cable, you need to know the pinout on the HD huddle cam and correctly make the pinout. If it's not moving at all, that might be just the wrong, you didn't make a crossover cable, so you need to double check that. So the pinout for 232, I think is still printed on the bottom of the keyboard, and you'll need to make a specific crossover cable. If you're using an RJ45 jack to control it, you'll need to make an actual custom cable. If you're using a Phoenix connector, make sure your connections are correct. Make sure transmit is going to receive is going to transmit, and in this instance, I think there's a positive and a negative as well. So RX plus is going to TX plus, RX negative is going to TX negative, and so on, and vice versa. I can't remember if that's 422. 422 might be giving you more options than that. So, yeah, there you go. Hopefully that's helpful. Hey, and it's noon. We made it, everybody. We made it. Welcome to the second half of Tuesday morning. Tuesday. Now Tuesday afternoon. I ran straight through network cables for RS232. Yes, for the BirdDog cameras you will, because the pinouts are the same on the devices. For Bolin products, they're the same, but they will probably be different across different manufacturers. So, the more you know, everybody. Today has been a day full of those helpful little tips, and that is thanks to Silas and Angus and NetHab, and who else we got in here? MX Rules. Yeah, good stuff. Great learning tools today, folks. Let me think about what else I've. So we monkeyed around through NDI Bridge. We found a quick little extra tool when it came to Studio Monitor. What else have I been up to today? A whole bunch of stuff, honestly. And I know that there are 3 salesmen that are waiting for me to respond to them, and probably 3 support agents at least who are waiting for this show to end so they can come and talk to me. It's always good to be wanted, right? It's always good to be needed. I don't know if that level of, if that means that I'm doing my job correctly or I'm not doing it correctly. I'll have to take an assessment of that. All right, what else do I got here that I should cover off? Hey, there's a new update for VLC, everybody. Please don't download that right now. It's for my beginning and ending music, which runs in the background all the time. But what else? What else do I need to cover today that you guys are interested in knowing? By the way, the whole point of this show is to provide you an opportunity to talk to somebody live in a chat scenario. And if I don't know, maybe somebody in the chat will know. And if everybody doesn't know, we can certainly go and find out. So we're working through a handful of things in the support desk. The team, amazingly enough, has kind of settled down the firestorm that usually is the weekend. But they've been able to kind of get responded back to as many people as they possibly can. And the ticket numbers, I won't say they're low, but I will say that they're under control, which is something we haven't been able to say this year very much. So kudos to the ticketing agents for getting onto things. of course, there are always things that we're working on, and we can definitely talk about a couple of those things that we're trying to iron out. In particular, we've been doing a fair bit of testing here in this office with Bird Dog Play, just because people are seeing various results, and we need to iron out. Actually, that NDI bridge discovery today was about Bird Dog Play, because people were transcoding. Somebody was transcoding their signals to HX and then pushing them to Play, in an effort to lighten the load on the network, on a unicast network. So we kind of went down that road with them, but then did kind of find out that something is going on with the transcode in NDI bridge that's not allowing Play to read it. And if it's an HX3 signal, as MX Rules has stated, and I believe it because it's a variable bit rate. You can select low, medium, high, and ultra, which is an HX feature. Then I'm wondering if Play is just having an issue with the way that bridge is doing that. But I also was helping the customer figure out how to manage your NDI signal generation when you have multiple NIC cards on the same computer. So what was happening was he had 4 connections, and one of them was the internet, which was, I think, just a general VLAN data VLAN, and then he had a Dante VLAN, he had an NDI VLAN, and he had QSYS VLAN. And he was operating all of the devices inside of those boxes, but then he had a bunch of NDI generation stuff happening on the computer that was plugged into all of those VLANs, and that was acting as the thing, right? So when we would start NDI bridge, we noticed that the signals that were being transcoded were showing up on all of the networks at random. So one encode per signal happening through bridge, but then they would randomly go onto the internet network or the Dante VLAN or the NDI VLAN or, his QSYS VLAN. And there was no way to kind of direct traffic back to the NDI network for NDI signal generation. And that was happening with Multiviewer as well. Now, I had some questions about how the VLANs were created. And one of the questions was, is NDI generated traffic permitted, all of it permitted, on the general data network? So was the VLAN that was running his NDI stuff, was it permitted to also operate on the one VLAN or the open VLAN or the internet VLAN, if you will? And vice versa, was the internet VLAN allowed to operate on that, let's say it's NDI 10 or VLAN 10, that's his NDI network. So was it allowed to operate simultaneously? So if, for example, an NDI source in Multiviewer was generated on the internet VLAN, could it be seen and used on any of the VLANs that are on the network? That seemed to be the case, but there was no way to actually steer the actual NDI generated NDI onto a specific NIC card. Now, MX Rule says, well, you need to set the preferred NIC card in NDI Access Manager. We did. Didn't change a thing. We restarted the machine multiple times. Didn't change a thing. It appears to me, and this is just a support guy who has tested some stuff over the ages, the preferred NIC option inside Access Manager doesn't seem to be functioning correctly. It is definitely preferred, but it is not limited to. And I wondered, with the NDI Bridge business, like NDI Access Manager and NDI Bridge are part of the same NDI tools suite and library. So you would think that if you went in and you set the NIC card to be preferred NDI network, then it would tell the library only generate NDI on this NDI network that is preferred. It did not matter one way or another. It still created signals kind of evenly on all VLANs. Didn't matter if we set it to that. Didn't matter if we restarted the machine. Didn't matter. It didn't isolate it to one. It just continued to use it. So that was an interesting problem. If you're seeing MDNS traffic from one VLAN on other VLANs, it means that their router has MDNS reflector and proxy turned on When you turn on the MDNS mode in Unify, for example, all it does is enable rebroadcasting MDNS packets on all VLANs. And I suspected that that's what was going on because the NDI decoders, the plays in this instance, when you refresh the list off the MDNS, it showed up all of the sources, but wasn't able to connect to the specific, well, wasn't really able to connect to many unless it was a full NDI source. So I wondered if, now we were successfully generating NDI signals through Bridge onto his NDI VLAN, but Play wasn't able to see those bridged sources. And that was curious, because why was that the case? Why doesn't Play show NDI HX signals, which are HX3, evidently? Why doesn't it show them correctly? So my test this afternoon is going to be, can I duplicate that process? And I have a PC here that will do, actually, well, I could just use this one, I guess, once I'm done with the show. I have a PC that I can run Bridge and then kind of go from there. So, yeah, it was interesting because I discovered it was VLANs halfway through the conversation, which was about an hour in. But he had said, well, they're not really subnets, they're VLANs. And I was like, oh, okay, yes. Then like remote IP stuff's not going to work. And a few other issues. But yeah, that was an interesting find. I suspect this is the case, NetHab, but the MDNS proxy should almost never be used. I agree. It shouldn't be reflecting the names, the learned names of the network across VLANs. That's a bad idea. Does VLAN tagging in NDI per sources then? So here's the thing about proper, hey, what's going on, Robert? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert Lucky, legend sales executive over here in the United States. What's the title now? What's the official title, Robert? Because things have moved around so much. I know you're channel manager at one point. Anyways, Robert is doing like high level integration of Bird Dog products in like big installations, corporate level, and he's got a lot of experience in that realm as well, especially in the AV market. So big things are on Robert's plate. So I'm surprised he's got time to hang out with us. Channel manager. Okay, the official title is still channel manager. Got it. Okay. Robert Lucky, channel manager to the North Americas and beyond. Welcome to the show. So inter VLAN tagging is really to be discouraged in the NDI, actually in the networking world. I don't like inter VLAN traffic because it violates the fundamental rules of VLANs, right? So the issue that we were having with the customer was that he wasn't in full control of the network, but somebody had set it up and then had shown him how they had done it. So he wasn't in the dark as to how it was functioning. He was just not able to manipulate it right there. So yes, I suspect the MDNS proxy is probably a thing in this instance because we could see all the MDNS information on, well, actually, yeah, the decoders could see all the MDNS information on the source lists, even when sources were not on the NDI network. So the first thing to fix is how to get all of the NDI generated traffic from the computer with multiple NIC cards to only generate on the NDI port. The preferred NIC card inside Access Manager did not change it. Yeah, it didn't make any difference. So that's a shame because I was hoping it would, but I do know from conversations with New Tech, but also conversations from our own engineers, it doesn't really appear that the preferred NIC thing is a for sure deal. Like it will force it. It seems like preferred is the word that they hinge on. It's like, well, it works sometimes. It's preferred, but not for sure. So that's the shame. That's a shame. All right, so that's what I was up to this morning, and that's where the NDI bridge thing came into play because I was trying to get the bridge signals to show up on Play, and full disclosure, I have never tested that. Probably should now that Play can do HX, but somebody mentioned here up the chain here, it said that a lot of this stuff becomes moot when you get silicon 2 on your cameras and encoders, and that's true. Because once we can start generating HX as a parallel channel out to the network, then you don't have to worry about using NDI bridge. That was when we were watching the video. But the real thing is getting multicast working correctly, because multicast on Play is pretty complicated, and we're working on getting that functional. And obviously plays are designed to be put en masse in big installations and networks, and to do 100 units is going to require a multicast configuration. And so we got to get that right. And that is what the engineers are working on when it comes to Bird Dog Play right now. That is their priority. So I can guarantee you that is for sure. So they're trying to figure that out. It does involve getting the guys who actually physically built the product on board with us, and also the makers of the circuit chip that we use. So it's a huge conversation. That's how to get that all functioning correctly. But it is a priority for us. So I can confidently say that. That is for sure. Feel free, by the way, to throw your questions inside that chat. I'm still going to stick around for a few more minutes. It is past the hour, so you've got your money's worth. I don't know. Maybe that's subjective. Hopefully you found something useful today on our support show. We had Jake on the show on Thursday, and I'd like to have him back because we want to cover a few more things. Actually, there's a lot of stuff to cover, and Jake is a great resource to do that. So we're going to have Jake come back on the show here soon and do that again. I know that there's a ton of questions about cloud. We did a 240 overview on Thursday, but there's a ton of questions about cloud. There's a ton of questions about central. And so we definitely want to go down that alley again with you and have that conversation. I should really share my 4250 configuration trick, shouldn't I? If you have one, yeah, now would be the time, because the hour has passed and I'm going to start wrapping things up here if you don't. So now would be the time. This is interesting. This blue light that's above me is giving like a very interesting reflection on this camera. Interesting. There are two of them up there. I mean, I put them both up there to kind of generate some blue lumens, but I can also change those. I could also change the light that's over here. So let's see if I can do that. I know which one it is. I control these by my phone, but unfortunately the manufacturer sent me two different styles, and so I have two apps on my phone, which is really dumb. Wall wash, this one. So I can change this to like green or purple, which is what it was. That's pink. Change it to purple, which is what it was a little while ago. Maybe a little heavier on the blue. We'll dial this back. Let's see. See, I don't like this because it just looks like a hot spot, right? It doesn't actually look very. But the blue was kind of nice and even, although it's still a bright, like the bright blue. This is like a baby blue. And I can obviously turn the brightness down, which is probably what I should do. If I go dark blue, yeah, that's a full wall basically of dark blue, which matches my shirt. And then I disappear into that wall color. All right, for setting up DHCP pools, I found the full switch UI extremely clunky. Full switch UI. I have to go through that anytime I need to make a change or overwrite the settings with the AV UI, which was nightmarish. So I set up a text file with the full list of commands, starting with enable to automatically set up all my DHCP reservation. All right, continue. Getting an even wash all the way up that wall is going with, getting an even wash all the way up a wall is what a CYC light is, or ... Hey, anytime I need to add something, I just pop into that text file, edit what I need, and then repaste it into the switch's terminal. Ooh, look at you. You are kind of getting into this API business, aren't you? The UI, here's the thing, is like I find that the UI is usually for people who don't have a lot of like networking experience, but I like it because of the because it makes networking more accessible to like all the people who are genuinely having networking problems. The guys that know networking really well are not the ones that need the UI. There, I said it. Yeah, I came by it honestly. So the CYC is short for cyclorama. Cyclorama. I want to look that up. Let's cyclorama. Cyclorama wall. Ooh. Is this what you're referring to, like an infinity wall or an infinity curve? That's what us laymen call them. It's true. I knew a guy who bought a former studio, like movie studio, and he was converting it into his landscaping company, like main headquarters. And they had an infinity wall there. And so he bought this giant warehouse for his trucks and everything. And they had this infinity wall for a very long time. It was really cool. But they couldn't use it, so they had to take it down. But it was like one of those things that you dream about. And it was this huge warehouse that had the infinity wall. But they did productions there out of Michigan. So I'm an AV guy first, a programmer second, and network guy way down the list. So the light outputs a gradient of light. So the top, middle, and bottom are all the same brightness. Oh. So I should have looked up the... Oh, yeah. I know what this is. Whoa, these are expensive. Why are they so expensive? I'm going to go into this. Oh, man, this website. Let's go with this one. Check this out. Clip art. Good stuff. All right. Four cell, single cell, LEDs. Let's see LEDs. Wow, that's a heavy price. I will look up some videos on those once I'm finished here and educate myself a little bit. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks guys. Thanks for that that little lesson. It is 20 after, and so I am going to get back to my desk and answer some questions that have come in on Teams internally here, so we need to probably address those. And there's a couple other things I really need to take care of today, so we will... Ooh, NetHab. Do people actually use this brand? Is it Chevette? Is that what it is? So... like... Here, I'll throw this back up here. So, this brand... B&H... Share this tab. You guys see that? Okay, cool. So, special order 320 RGB. Freedom. I mean, it's a nice light. Still looks like it would throw a hotspot on my wall. Maybe not. There we go. Can't wait. I love these videos. world. Ooh, all right. That was fun. Fun stuff. I think there's another video on here too. Take a look. Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Jeff Short with Chauvet DJ here with my
Chauvet?
friend Rick Peoples, product manager. Rick, how are you?
Chauvet.
Doing good, Jeff. All things
Chauvet.
considered.
Why is there a
We're
T
hanging
in
there, and we
Chauvet?
hope you are too, staying safe and healthy and well from where you are. And speaking of current conditions, Rick, one of the things we wanted to talk about here is these streaming videos and people creating sort of their home studios from wherever they are, and the importance of some good wash lighting. I think a lot of us don't consider how we actually look to a zoom camera on our computers or how our environment looks. And we do have a particular tool that's great for that here we want to talk about, but I wanted to get your feedback on that, on this current phenomenon
Albert
of streaming and how
Chauvet is
wash lighting
French.
can help us.
You know, we got a lot of people out there doing educational content. A lot of people out there just doing their.
I hate
own
the English
mixes to
language
stay
and when it
relevant.
translates
The struggle is real.
to,
You know, be cliche about it
like,
all. One
anyway.
thing I notice is a
I
lot
just
of people wearing glasses. I see a lot of
don't care for it.
reflections of the cheap ring lights.
My
that they use.
daughter is
I
9
see
years
some
old, and
guys
she
using
is in
lighting
Spanish
there
immersion, so she's
completely
learning
in the
English
shadows. A couple of
kinda like
DJs
now.
that I've watched.
and
hear the music and I see their
the
walls
struggle.
lit
I
up,
just
but I can't even see them.
I sympathize
A lot
with
of
her.
people sitting
English
down
is so
actually
messed
having
up.
discussions or standing up having discussions in education, a lot of shadowing going on. This could help with that. The Freedom Psych is a great footlight.
Psych.
You know, in other areas you can use this for when we get back to gigging again, bands, this is really good for you guys. Right at your feet, straight up, gets underneath the chin, kills all those shadows that are there, allows the downlighting to come out, and you have a nice, full, even tone.
And adding some color and some light is a great way to do that. This is the Freedom Psych, part of the Freedom family of Chauvet DJ products.
Freedom fries.
100% battery powered and wireless DMX built right into them. Rick, what else
Wait.
should we know about the Freedom Psych?
It's battery
Preset
powered?
built-in color temperatures. So there's a whole variety of preset whites that are true white. They're not pinkish white, they're not blue white. They really are white.
And I think the great thing too about the Freedom Psych is, as you probably notice, it's got a different form factor than our normal Freedom Pars. It's sort of a wider format, and it's got this unique sort of reflecting lens here that makes the
it can be
beam
wired.
angle
Okay,
really
good to know.
wide. And so you get this sort of nice, even wash wherever you're using them. The great thing about that too is not only the evenness and the warmth and the genuine color tones of it, but it's also the fact that you don't need as many of them to get some great coverage. What are some of the features that are built into this other than the color temperatures that you mentioned?
As you pointed out, the
Interesting.
lens that we have in this unit was designed by Chauvet. It is the best color mixing unit, in my opinion, in the DJ line. As many of you know that have LED par cans, if you turn on red and green to mix yellow, you get bad artifacts, especially the closer you get to the wall. It's the hardest color to mix is yellow. Put this on yellow, it's even. You can take it right up to the wall. You don't see the red and green artifact come out of it. It's truly a yellow wash. The farther you pull this away from a wall, because it is designed as a psych light, so don't get uplights and psych lighting confused. They're similar, but hugely different. These work best when you pull them away from the wall. And I know mobile entertainers, when you guys get back out in the world, that becomes a trip hazard. So we did put a kickstand in the unit, so you can kind of cheat the pulling it away from the wall. It's not going to work for you exactly the way a psych light would. It's not a perfect fix, but allows you to get it closer to the wall and get higher up the wall. If you keep them all flat and down, you can get some good effects in your room because there's always large spaces between your highlights. This gives you a nice wide wash. It'll be a shorter wash, but good wall fill. And if you want to make it higher, pull it back, or tilt the kickstand. If you're in a true theatrical setup where you are lighting a cyclorama and you want that wall to be even and smooth and the same all the way across it, 4 feet out, 4 feet apart, and you're going to be using this as a cyclorama light would be, and you're going to get the whole wall lit in a nice, smooth, even wash that's just going to be beautiful. Another feature that the Freedom Cyc has is an OLED display, so you have real words on everything. It's easy to read, easy to set up. I know this has no effect when you're
Real
out there
words.
using the light, but when you're setting it up and you want to get somewhere, this is incredibly simple versus a 4-digit LED display that you find in a lot of different lighting out on the market today.
Beautiful. It's got the handy handle for carrying. It's very heavy duty, as Rick said, the kickstand. And the great thing about it is it works with any other Freedom product. They're all great in that way in how they communicate universally
DMX
with
controlled,
each other
eh?
through wireless DMX.
Interesting.
Rick, thanks for walking us through this again and for your insight in terms of lighting the gig world. We really
Very cool. Yeah, okay, there's the power. Does it do pass-through power? Like you can daisy them together? That'd be cool. Quick built-in color, yada, yada, yada. DMX 4, 6, or 10 channels, additional wireless control. Can be used in internal battery. Eight-hour runtime on all LEDs, up to 20 hours with a single color. Recharge time 5 hours. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. It looks like an extremely useful light. Seriously, my brain is churning. Okay, well, it's 12:30. Most lights like that do. It's true. Yeah, they allow for power pass through. Interesting. Well, thanks a lot, because now my brain is busy. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate you. Hey, you too, Angus. Have a great one. We are going to be back on Thursday for an extra hour, and you're certainly welcome to... Oh, I still have coffee. You're certainly welcome to come and hang out with us again on Thursday. Bring your questions, bring your friends, and I believe today's line said bring your questionable friends. So everybody's welcome. If you got NDI questions, we'll certainly try and give you a hand with them. If between now and then you have a question that really needs an answer sooner than later, you can always hit us up at help@birddog.tv. It's a great place to get answers. I've got a team of people who answer those tickets every single day. And so it's no longer like if the ticketing agent gets sick, nobody gets a reply. There are multiple people who are handling that desk. And so feel free to hit us up at help@birddog.tv. Be sure that you submit it to this address, though. Some people have sent in messages to like Freshdesk, which was like 3 years ago now. That system's dead and gone. So you're not going to get a reply if you send a message to them. Also, if you're sending it to like support at like the Zoho desk, if you're doing that on the original ticket creation, that may not work very well. And so if you're creating a new ticket, please hit us up at help@birddog.tv. That's the quickest way to do it. There's also a web form on the website that asks for a little bit more information, but it helps us, gather some data quicker. So hit us up at help@birddog.tv. My team is going to reach out to you and find out whatever they need to do to get the conversation started. And then we can definitely give you a hand with whatever problem that you're experiencing with the Bird Dog product that you own. Now, if you've got questions about the products before you buy them, the guys over at hello@birddog.tv are the place to be, because those guys are pre-sales. They'll be able to answer your questions fairly straightforward and give you a hand there with any questions about integration, or maybe you're dreaming of how you can use Bird Dog cameras in your workflow. They can give you a great insight as to how to get it off the ground. And so our pre-sales guys at hello@birddog.tv are a good place to start. Hey, a lot of you guys have been subscribing to the birddogjohn.tv channel, which is over on YouTube. That channel is slowly growing, and we're in like the 180s now, which is really cool. If you haven't subscribed to that channel, head over to birddogjohn.tv And that's my YouTube channel. And anything that I do on support is produced there and in other places. But that's really the place to find everything that we do here. So if you aren't subscribed there and you have a YouTube account, hit us up at birddogjohn.tv. That is where I will be. You can ring that bell and like the videos and get the notifications and whatever it is that they say, whatever those young whippersnappers do. That is the place to do that. And so please feel free to subscribe. That would help me out because I can show my bosses, look, last month I had 15 people subscribe to the channel. Super helpful. And it's always fun to see that channel grow. So hit us up over at birddog.tv. I'm sorry, birddogjohn.tv. And that would help me out big time. And I think that is, of course, the show is Tuesday, Thursdays from 11 to at least 12 o'clock. So this show is twice a week. We try and be available, try and do something live so that you can ask your questions and get some answers. And we can certainly walk you through anything in real time. That's part of the fun of this. And if I don't know, there's a whole bunch of people in here that might know. So asking the question here is a great live environment, and we're happy to help you sort out whatever it is that's going on. And if it's way more than we're able to handle here on the show, we'll set up a time to chat with you over on a support ticket or a remote session or something like that after. All right. Take care of yourselves out there. I may have to miss Thursday. It's crazy schedule lately. Understood, Angus. If you don't make it, we'll miss you. Hopefully we'll see you, but we'll totally understand, people are busy too. So, all right. Take care of yourselves out there. It is a crazy, crazy busy world. And so look after yourselves, try and stay healthy, and certainly look after others as well, because there's not a lot of that going on these days. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you guys on Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time right here in the U.S. Be well. We'll see you soon. Bye.
3, 2, 1.
This is magnificent.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.